All right, let's try this again. Take two. Sorry about the audio issues in the last one. All right, let's try this again. Take two. Okay, let me just see if the audio works this time. Oh, hey everybody. Hope everybody's doing good. Let's see if this chat works this time. Fingers crossed. Let me know if the audio is working, and if it is, then we'll start this stream again. And just again, reiterate, if you have any questions you want to ask me regarding the stream or previous Alex Hirsch interview or anything regarding this pitch Bible, let me know again in the chat, and I'll try and answer it as we go along. Yeah, the stream died the first time. There were some weird audio issues and really loud background noise and stuff. I was trying to fix that up, so I think it should be working now, but if it doesn't, let me know in the chat, and I'll try and see if I can fix it. But okay, yeah, it seems like everybody's saying the chat's working, and yeah, Disney trying not to get their entire animation department hacked. Impossible. Yep, seems like that's what exactly has happened here. So long story short, if you're just joining in the stream, what happened is that a major leak occurred on 4chan's cartoon board the other day, where someone posted the pilots of various cartoons, so both like the HD version of the Gravity Falls pilot and the finally found Next Time on Reel, as well as some other like pilots and pitch bibles, and among them was the Gravity Falls pitch bible, which I have here opened up. So we're just gonna look through it, and just that's pretty much gonna be the stream here. Okay, sounds like everything's working. Was it Disney trying to silence you? Yeah, Mickey Mouse's legal team is probably going to be after me after this, but, I have Alex Hirsch on speed dial, so I'll just call him. Though I don't know what Alex Hirsch is going to do. He hasn't been getting back to my emails. Okay, we got one question here. Are you going to be able to put the Alex Hirsch interview on Apple Podcast or Spotify? Me and Hannah have been talking about that. We're thinking about holding off on doing that just for now, so we can have the Alex interview get a bit of attention on YouTube first, and then afterwards, I think we're gonna post it on like some Spotify perhaps or SoundCloud or whatever. So it's gonna come eventually, but for now, we're gonna keep it on YouTube exclusively. But yeah, so with that said, let's look through the pitch Bible for Gravity Falls. So what we have open here is the original pitch Bible that was made in 2010, and it has like some early descriptions of the show and stuff, and some pretty cool things which we'll get to later on. Okay, so originally what I was talking about in the previous stream before we cut it off was that Dipper and Mabel here, it talks about them as being like sort of like pampered city kids. Well, it literally says that in the pitch Bible. And from my assumption here is that Dipper and Mabel were originally going to be more, I guess, spoiled kids, perhaps, from what we see in the actual final version of the show. So that's kind of interesting to see. It kind of makes sense considering Piedmont, California is a pretty upscale neighborhood in the San Francisco area from what I've read about it. So that kind of would have been interesting to see. I don't know if we would have actually seen Dipper and Mabel acting a bit more like like pamper type kids perhaps in the show, but that would have been pretty funny to see. I love that 50 pun snotty kids. I know, right? That would have been really hilarious to see. But yeah, I'm kind of glad we didn't see that. It kind of makes Dipper and Mabel more relatable, I guess, more humbling characters in that sense. So glad we didn't see that. Okay, so here's the Bible in a nutshell for Gravity Falls. Dipper has planned the perfect summer, 3 months of video games, playing popsicles, eating, and YouTube surfing. This is from 2010. I forgot YouTube still existed back then. Well, I mean, I knew YouTube existed back then. I was watching like videos of planes landing on runways and stuff back then, and the copyright system back in 2009 was not that good. So if you remember, you'll probably remember like full movies being posted onto YouTube back then. But okay, so stationed on the couch with an arsenal of Nerf weaponry to keep his twin sister. I love how this is describing Dipper. He's there on his sofa playing video games while he's just shooting Mabel with a Nerf gun. So like she starts to get in his way while he's like playing, I don't know, Call of Duty or something. He's like go away, like shoots her with a Nerf gun. I mean, I never had a Nerf gun as a kid, so I wouldn't have done that even to my little sister. But I mean, I wasn't a gamer, so I don't know. And then Mabel's summer was going to be equally awesome, a non-stop musical montage of cat-sitting, romance novel reading, and counting the days between attending concerts of her favorite 5 boy bands. Mabel had 5 boy bands? But then disaster struck. Oh, so this is what the original. Oh, so this is what the original explanation for Dipper and Mabel being sent to Gravity Falls was. Their parents won tickets to a summer-long luxury cruise and decided to ship the kids off to spend the summer with the only available relative, the great uncle Stan in Gravity Falls, Oregon. So in the actual show, we know that Dipper and Mabel were sent to Gravity Falls to get fresh air and stuff, like, be more outdoorsy. But in this description, apparently they were going to be sent there because they were on a cruise. Their parents were on a cruise. Which, honestly, I'm actually kind of glad they changed that, because I think the idea of, oh, our parents won tickets on a luxury cruise is a bit of a cliche. I mean, I think we've heard that a lot of times in our TV shows where, like, characters win this huge prize and now they're going to go on a trip and then they have to send their kids off. And it makes things a bit too circumstantial for my taste, I guess. But, I'm glad they changed it that way. Oh man, they just left them there. This made me wonder what Dipper and Mabel's were. Yeah, from the looks of the original pitch, it sounds like Dipper and Mabel had a more stereotypical sibling relationship where, Dipper and Mabel were kind of like arguing with each other, probably more so. So I'm kind of glad they changed that in the actual show. Like, they're more positive siblings instead of, like, the usual, like, get away from me, like we both would probably kill each other if we were left alone type siblings. I'm glad they changed it. I like what we got better. Yeah, same. As it turns out, the Grunkle Stan is the black sheep of the black sheep of the family for a reason. An 80-year-old huckster, Stan runs and lives in the Mystery Shack, a cheesy tourist trap which overcharges unlucky tourists for a glimpse of the world's crappiest museum of unusual. Suddenly, the kids are forced to share a room in the attic and spend all the summer doing chores for the crazy uncle in town with no internet connection or cell phone reception. For them, that's probably the circles of hell. The twins decide that the only way to survive the summer is to form a truce. See, look, they're there. It says it there. They form a truce. That essentially proves that Dipper and Mabel in this original pitch Bible were going to be more of the toxic, cliche siblings there, and vow to find fun no matter what. Little do they know. Like, I'm not liking that. I'm so glad Alex didn't go with this tempo. It would have made me like Gravity Falls a lot less. Honestly, it would have made Gravity Falls just another show about, like, two toxic siblings and stuff, which I'm so glad it didn't go down that route. So, yeah, I'm glad we didn't get this sort of idea of them being, like, mean-spirited siblings to each other. That's a good thing. Okay, and then over here, that's pretty expected. Like, the old Gravity Falls logo, which is more of a postcard theme. It's not a full quality postcard. I was hoping that we'd find that, because the ones that we have online are not full quality. Over here it says something E44N5. Not sure what that says. I don't think I've seen that on the original postcard, but maybe I'm misremembering. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Okay, here's Dipper. A big thinker trapped in a small body. Okay, and so it says here, a clever and relentlessly inventive kid, Dipper has the curiosity and intelligence beyond his years. He tends to notice details that others don't, and is has an insatiable urge to solve mysteries, riddles, and puzzles of all kinds. He absolutely refuses to sit still, and when there's a weird, crazy universe out there waiting to explore it, he's happiest when he's got a map in one hand, flashlight in the other, and a few no trespassers signs up ahead. Unfortunately, he's 12 and in his awkward years seems intent on sabotaging any chance he has of being taken seriously by anyone. He's anxious around girls, especially Wendy, and has a few nervous tics and constantly chewing on whatever's closest to his mouth. So essentially, from what I'm seeing here, Dipper sounds more or less what he was gonna be in the show, though. It sounds like he was gonna be more of a nerdy kid here, like more like, I think Alex mentioned it in the commentaries for the box set. Like, he mentioned that Dipper was sort of more like, he didn't want Dipper to be sort of like BK Kids Club type nerdy kid, I think was what he was saying. So in that sense, I'm kind of glad they didn't keep Dipper like super intelligent. They made him more of a average intelligence, so he's not like super smart, but he's also not super dumb either, and that's probably a good level playing field for him to be on. So I'm glad they didn't go that way with Dipper's character. So I'm glad with that in that sense that this didn't happen. Also, by the way, if you guys are wanting to see the pitch Bible yourself, I'm just gonna post a link to the pitch Bible on Google that someone posted on the Google Drive. Basically, after the pitch Bible got leaked, someone made a Google Drive folder for the entire thing. It's been shared around now, so I'm just gonna post it here. Oh, so here's a link to the Pitch Bible Google Drive. I'll just pin it once it lets me pin it. But okay, we're gonna continue going through this. That being said, if zombies attack your town, Dipper's the first kid you want on your team. He's independent, determined, resourceful. He'll radio the hospital for first aid, make zombie-proof armor out of duct tape, and lure monsters out of town with a giant paper mache. Let me just pin. Okay, let me just pin that message. So yeah, there now it's pinned. So if you want to access the Pitch Bibles, it's on the Google Drive folder over there. So it has the Pitch Bibles, the mock art pack, and a couple of other things like the HD pilot and stuff. Okay. Paper mache brains. Unfortunately, if zombies aren't attacking the town, Dipper's enthusiastic desire to vanquish evil tends to make him look a little nuts. It's not like that he's crazy, on the contrary. He's easily the most rational and sane character in the show, but his highly advanced creativity and love of adventure tends to leave him restless in everyday situations. Oh, and I love this early design, this drawing that they made of the of Dipper. Like here, he's trying to catch a leprechaun using whiskey, which I'm pretty sure he got that from Grunkle Stan. I love how in the original Pitch Bibles they're allowed to be a lot more crazy with the stuff that they get away with, so they can be more adult themed. So we got whiskey. This was obviously never going to be in the actual version of the show, but that's kind of funny. The most sane, yeah, it tells you a lot about Gravity Falls characters when Dipper is considered the most sane one. Okay, and then considers having to spend the time with Summer as an epic tragedy. He's determined to make the best of a bland situation by investigating the town and learning its secrets along with his sister. Little does he know, of all the weird towns in Gravity Falls, per square inch is more weirder. Okay. And here's where the life gives you lemon quotes came from. I finally figured out where these came from. Okay, when life gives you lemons, extract the juice and use it to draw a treasure map in invisible ink. That really works, seriously. Special talent, anagram master, Rubik's Cube aficionado, can drink black coffee. Dipper can drink black coffee? Oh my god, now I'm going to have to completely rewrite every single fanfic I wrote, because in all those fanfics I wrote, I always had Dipper as headcanon as being a coffee hater, so apparently he likes coffee. God damn it, Alex. Okay, secret shame. He has a birthmark that looks like the Big Dipper on his forehead, which he hides with a hat. To completely rewrite. And an oft-heard saying, it's that complicated, has to be true. And also I love this extra screenshot, this drawing here of Dipper. Essentially here he's looking at various conspiracy theories, and honestly, kudos to Alex Hirsch, because he somehow added the Disney Mickey Mouse ears inside of this think bubble with all these other conspiracy theories while trying to pitch the show to Disney. Like how did the executives not like just get mad at him over this? Like, you put the Illuminati symbol right next to the Disney like symbol. That's honestly respect, man. Yeah, you gotta love Alex for that. Okay, now we're gonna move on to, of course, Mabel. And here, Mabel is described as a cheery, spaced-out romantic. Okay, the female half of the Pines twins, Mabel is an energetic optimist who skips through life with the assortment of the world's ugliest sweaters and a flimsy grasp on reality. I can see Alex Hirsch was really thinking really simply out of the box with Mabel here. Although she wasn't immediately thrilled about the prospect of spending all summer working for her uncle, she sees the summer as a project like a scrapbook to be filled rather than a jail sentence to be endured, which can sometimes be Dipper's perspective. Like her brother, Mabel enjoys mysteries, but less of the sweeping government conspiracy kind and more of the why is my face upside down in a spoon kind. She also loves boy bands, of course, anything fuzzy, going with the flow, and even if the flow leads off a cliff. When it comes to boys, Mabel is a pushover. She's read enough preteen romance novels to know that for certain she's going to fall madly in love with the boy or werewolf of her dreams any day now. Nearly every day she has a crush of a lifetime, and occasionally lands on disastrous situations that requires Dipper getting her out of hand. She's definitely more sociable of the two and can chat comfortably with a stranger, and she can and as well as inanimate objects. At home, Mabel and Dipper. Here's more of that thing about like the toxic sibling thing that I was talking about that I'm so glad they didn't do. At home, Mabel and Dipper would fight constantly, but trapped in the small, isolated town of Gravity Falls, under the stern eye of their deranged great uncle, they need to survive each other's company. Despite all the weirdness that happens in Gravity Falls, Mabel generally tries to make the best out of the situation, and with a Girl Scout like desire to get to know the townsfolks and aid them in their troubles, even when they ask her repeatedly to leave. Her concern for the community includes knitting small sweaters for the squirrels of Gravity Falls, which Dipper thinks is unbelievably stupid. Although they're complete opposites in most respects, Mabel and Dipper share a vivid imagination, and Mabel's fearless curiosity and determined outgoingness is something exactly what Dipper needs to unravel a mystery when she isn't driving him crazy, although the twins were technically born first. So here Mabel is older by 3 minutes and reminds Dipper of this constantly as proof that she has seniority. I love how they kept that, but made Mabel just 2 minutes extra older than Dipper in the actual final cut of the show. When life gives you lemons, draw faces on them, make them blankets, lemon babies. Special talents, animal calls, the ability to punch harder than any girl should. So Mabel is apparently still strong here as well. She can punch really good. And knitting skills that would put a grandma to shame. Mabel doesn't... Wait, what? What? Wait, what? My secret shame doesn't shower unless she absolutely has to. So Mabel was the one who's going to be originally the one who doesn't clean her... What? So they made What? Okay, I'm confused now. So Mabel was gonna be the one who doesn't take her hygiene seriously, but it's now Dipper in the final version. That's actually pretty funny. So apparently Mabel was gonna be the smelly one, not Dipper. Honestly, I'm glad they changed that. That does not at all sound like something Mabel would do. Often heard saying meow, 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 which is the fastest way to drive Dipper insane. And then, of course, here we have Mabel knitting sweaters for squirrels. And in here, she's looking at boy bands. For reals, real talent, real boys. Something tells me the folks who worked on Turning Red looked at this poster. So, but yeah, reading through this, honestly, I don't know. Mabel more or less sounds kind of the same that she was in the actual show, though a little bit... Though here, Mabel sounds a bit more of a overly cheerful type character than the one that we see in the show. Like, she's more of the stereotypical type upbeat character here compared to how she is in the final series. Also, I'm not a huge fan of the fact that it says here Dipper and Mabel would fight with each other all the time, considering what we know about them. And also the fact that apparently Mabel is the one who didn't shower. That's pretty funny. Yeah, Mabel has yeah, exactly, like that. Washing clothes is a waste of time, a busy guy, or she bubble bats. Yeah. Honestly, personally, I think the Mabel pitch here is pretty okay, though. I would change a couple of things, obviously, as I've said. So it's okay. That's pretty much the best way to describe it. Okay, moving on to Grunkle Stan. He's the Well, Alex said it's straightforward here. A greedy old bastard. Hunchbacked 80-year-old P.T. Barnum of questionable sanity. Can anyone explain what that means? B.T. Barnum? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Stan is a washed-up ex-salesman who finally found a town with more suckers per capita than anywhere else in America and set up shop. He insisted the kids call him Grunkle because he believes that great uncle takes too long and the time spent... And time is money. Okay, so that's where Grunkle came from. The same thing over here. I'm gonna refuse Dipper I'm gonna refuse Dipper likes black coffee. Oh yeah, and also Stan was originally gonna be 80 in the original pilot. This is, I think, already known, but in the actual show, of course, he's in his late 60s, but here he was in his 80s. So yeah, kind of glad they also did that, considering Stan would be much older, though it probably would have solved a lot of the timeline issues. Stan is something of a split personality. The public knows him as Mr. Mystery, an enchantingly weird ringmaster with a flair of showmanship. The kids know him as a lying, lazy, money-obsessed bum who watches daytime TV in his boxers. Both are true. An avid bachelor, he's never been in charge of kids before, and as a summer caretaker, he is disorganized, absent-minded, careless, and unfit to look after a turtle, let alone two twins. He's also a bit of a pathological liar, and the twins have a hard time separating Stan's facts from Stan's fiction, which is what makes him so good at his job. Of course, Stan doesn't believe a single thing he sells. For him, ghost goblins and genies are just tools of the trade, and scaring people and dropping their walls just puts him at an ideological odds with Dipper, while Dipper is a moral truth teller with a youthful instance that anything is possible. Stan believes that he's seen it all, and most of it is rotten. Stan is a con man at heart, and he plays up every situation. He's into his advantage. He constantly plays the senile old man card and gets away with shoplifting, car accidents, spitting on the floor, and peeking down. Oh my! They did not try to hide that. Okay, so apparently Stan was a bit more of a pervert in this version. Okay then. When he's giving his tours, he pretends to be a lovable old man with a twinkle in his eyes and a quarter in his ear. At home, he makes the kids do his chores and can be a real bastard if disobeyed. Nonetheless, somewhere in his dusty old prune of a heart, he does love the children and would be mortified if anything bad happened to them. Although, considering the ridiculousness in the errands he makes them do, he'll probably directly be responsible for disaster when it strikes. Fortunately, he falls asleep quite easily. Many opportunities sneak out before they hit the door. So, okay, so Stan more or less is pretty much the exact same we see him in the show. Okay, here's a new drawing of him here, asleep. Okay, here it says here, well, like he's lemon, seldom call him orange lemon, seldom a double price. He can play the world slur organ, but only does it if you beg. He's been arrested in 48 states. There's a thin line between lies and entertainment. So Pilot Stan is more or less kind of the exact same Stan that we know and love. He's a liar. He's a con man. He's been arrested in multiple states. He plays the old man card though. I think that this part here where he's a bit of a pervert got cut out from the actual version, which I'm kind of glad would, to be honest. I mean, it kind of fits Stan, but also makes Stan a bit more likable in the actual version of the show that's not the case. Also, overall, I think that this version of Stan being 80 years old is kind of insane, so I'm kind of glad they made him a bit younger in the actual show. It makes all the stuff that he gets up to a bit more believable without him getting killed, because I don't think 80-year-old Stan would be able to fight a pterodactyl perfectly fine like that and get away with it. This Stan, although Grunkle Stan is still here, probably is the irony here is that Stan is probably younger than the current president, so GG America. Yeah, let me just check the chat. I haven't checked everything. Someone mentioned it. Wikipedia says Phineas Taylor Brum, known professionally, was an American. So that's who that's what it's referencing. Oh, okay. So he's a PT. Oh, so it's basically a con man reference. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Like Stan is a bit more unlikable in this version, so I'm glad that didn't happen. So yeah, the Stan, the one we got. Again, everything we're noticing so far in this pitch Bible is that the current version of the characters is better than the one we have in the pitch Bible, which makes sense. Okay, let's see what's next. The Mystery Shack. Okay, this photo we've already seen. This was shared by Ian Worrell. I think this was the first drawing of the Mystery Shack that was made in, I think, 2009. Here it says Stan runs and lives in the Gravity Falls Mystery Shack, a hokey tourist trap that claims to be a mind-bending parallel universe which defies the laws of physics, when in reality it's filled with questionable taxidermies, a wax museum that's mostly melted, and bumper stickers that say "I got it disoriented at the Gravity Falls Mystery Shack." Despite the obvious fakeness of it, its oddity is one of the most famous establishments in Gravity Falls, and tourists often come over to see what the hubbub is about, and inevitably be deeply disappointed. I'm pretty sure the Mystery Shack's Yelp reviews are pretty horrible. The kids sleep upstairs in the attic, and their uncle sleeps downstairs by the safe, always guarding his cash. And considering we also know that he has 10 guns, that probably makes sense. Ironically, Dipper and Mabel's wacky new home is actually the least mysterious part of the town, and most of their adventures happen right outside their door. I love the irony of that. Essentially, the Mystery Shack is the exact same thing here as it was in the actual show. It just looks a bit smaller in this version. So yeah, I'm kind of glad the Mystery Shack that we finally got to see is a bit bigger and obviously more iconic than this one. This one looks more like the Confusion Hill building that if you know about Confusion Hill. So yeah, I'm glad it more or less kept the same. Yeah. This person's spamming. If you're the person Pebble, if you're reading this, please do not spam in the chat. I will have to mute you if you do that again. But yeah, other than that, moving on. Now we're gonna look at the next part of the town. A quaint little town dwarfed by a roaring waterfall and possibly tall redwoods. Gravity Falls seems like a charming town, if mostly inconsequential dot on the Oregon state map. The main industries are mining, logging, and mud flap manufacturing, and the town is generally people with orny lumberjacks, six-fingered truckers. So Forever's not going to be the only six-fingered person? Interesting. And other standard rustic rubes. Beneath the facade of the wholesome American charm, however, lies a puzzling dark side. The forest is filled with gnomes. The lake has at least two monsters. There's a cave that seems to lead straight to the underworld, and an arcade machine which could best be described as possessed. Most of the townsfolk don't notice such things, and if they do, they just laugh it off with one of the local jokes about the effects of altitude sickness. To anyone daring and clever enough to explore it, however, Gravity Falls is strange and a wondrous place, as dark and adventurous as the depths of a 12-year-old's imagination. If the town were to be thought of as a character, it would be a trickster, a mischievous spirit who loves to play riddles and games, sometimes with dire stakes. So more or less the exact same thing. I wonder if 4 was ever... from what I've heard, I don't think they originally had 4 planned around this time, or maybe there were like some early ideas for it. I'm not exactly sure on that regard, but I mean, it kind of makes sense if they did have them planned or not yet, so should be interesting to see. But yeah, let's see what else is there. The big mystery. In the meanders of paranormal and unusual within the town isn't an accident. Gravity Falls does indeed have a mind of its own, a mischievous soul which collects and protects in the unique and strange. Gravity Falls is a safe haven for things that have no place in the logical adult world of mega malls and skyscrapers. It's the last corner of America where jackalopes still roam and lake monsters can rest peacefully. So Gravity Falls basically is the final frontier. Eat your heart out, Alaska. Dipper and Mabel's place within the town isn't an accident either. A place like Gravity Falls has many enemies, from government agents who want to harness its powers to, first mentioned, Little Gideon, who wants to bulldoze the whole thing and turn it into a theme park dedicated to himself. Wait till you see the Gideon designs, that's pretty funny. Even though Grunkle Stan seems like a dodgering nutjob, he is actually the sworn protector of the town. His mystery shack is not just a business, but an outpost to guard from threats, as well as hokey front to make all of the magic of the town seem like a hoax. As it turns out, though, Stan is getting up in his years and has brought Dipper and Mabel in as potential replacements to run the shack and protect the town. Of course, he can't just outright tell them this. Either their little minds will be blown and they're not mature enough to handle it. He knows the only way to understand the importance of the town is to experience it for yourself. So he plays the sarcastic old fool around them, secretly hoping that they rise to the occasion and are ready when the time comes to reveal everything, which, if it ever happened, will either be in the last episode or the movie. Okay, so this is interesting. So the original plan of Gravity Falls was not going to be Ford or the uncovering of the journal and the author and stuff like that, but it was going to be Stan is bringing Dipper and Mabel in as to try and mentor them to be the new heirs of the town after he's gone, and getting them interested in the paranormal. So that's interesting. This kind of plays out more like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, to be honest. Like Willy Wonka bringing in all those kids in to try and find someone to replace him once he's old enough and once he's old and moves on. So this is kind of like Grunkle Stan and the Chocolate Factory. So it's like Grunkle Stan bringing in Dipper and Mabel to try and see which one is ready to take on the role of the Mystery Shack and protector of the town. That's honestly interesting. I wouldn't say it's exactly like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I mean, I don't think Grunkle Stan has Oompa Loompas that start singing every time a kid gets murdered. But I guess that would have been interesting. I don't think there would have been actually a journal. I mean, as we know in the pilot, there was that book called Dr. Crackpot's Book of Things of the Damned or something. So I think there was going to be some other individual who wrote a book, or maybe Grunkle Stan was going to be Dr. Crackpot in this version. I mean, there's just so little that we know about it in regards to the pilot, and all this is probably lost information now, unless Alex Hirsch himself knew. It would have been interesting. And I can tell you right now, if this pilot and this pitch Bible had leaked back when I was still working out the interview with Alex, I would have for sure asked him about this stuff, because this is golden material. I would have really pushed on him to answer this stuff when I had the chance. But that interview happened over almost a year ago now, so yeah. Okay, now here's something interesting: the coworkers. So this essentially shows that although there wasn't a Seuss in the pilot for Gravity Falls, there was a Seuss in the pitch Bible. But first, we're going to start with Wendy. And when I was reading the Wendy pitch here the other day, and I was quite amazed at how different she is compared to the Wendy we know and love in the show. So it says here that Wendy is the unusually tall high school girl who works at the Gravity Falls concession stand as a part-time job. Wendy is clever, friendly, and eccentric. The twins think she's impossibly cool, although neither are brave enough to drink the weird vegan juice products she sells out of the back of her van. Dipper harbors an innocent crush on Wendy and would do anything for her at the drop of a hat, except incidentally dropping his hat, which would reveal his embarrassing birthmark. The cost of hanging out with Wendy is that sometimes her jerky hipster boyfriend shows up, Robbie shows up, and spoils their fun. Dipper can't imagine why in the world she would go out with a low-life poser like him, although he thinks it probably has something to do with the fact that he's in a band, which is enough to make Dipper consider taking guitar lessons. Either way, Dipper has secretly sworn that he will prove to Wendy what a jerk Robbie really is one day. So, essentially, Wendy is the exact same that she... Well, actually, no, Wendy is really different here. First of all, it says here that apparently Wendy is a vegan, so she drinks like vegan juices and stuff, which I don't know how that would make sense considering all juices. I guess you could say all juice is sort of vegan, to be honest. So there's that. Also, from the sounds of it, Wendy seems more like a hippie type character compared to the more lumberjack character that we see her in the show. So that's kind of interesting. It's honestly kind of weird, to be honest. Like, I described Wendy's design here as sort of like Jana from Star vs. The Force of Evil, if you remember that. So Wendy here is really different to how she is in the actual show. I'm honestly kind of surprised how 180 of a character she's had from where she was here originally. So that's pretty interesting. And then here's Seuss. Originally, he was called Jesus because back then they were still trying to figure out the name. And if you watch the Alex Hirsch interview, Alex mentioned how like originally they were gonna call Seuss Jesus here, but of course they had to change that because that sounds pretty similar to Jesus. But then they tried to change it to something else, and then it turned out that his name would have been referred to as Sus nowadays. So Seuss was gonna be called Sus at one point. Then they had to change that, and then they were gonna change it to Seuss with Sues, but that was Dr. Seuss, and they couldn't do that for copyright reasons. So they eventually settled on the Seuss that we know. So here Seuss is referred to as the portly, lovable man-child who works the gift shop cash register and lives with his grandma. Jesus is a gossip-obsessed blabbermouth with a weak mustache and love of Spanish soap operas, which he tends to watch at work when Stan isn't looking. Jesus loves his job, puts him in the right center of activity where he can chat up guests and tell them all the tales about the town. He likes the twins and they like him back, although they find him a little weird that someone would still be working the same dead-end summer job, and long into his mid-20s. Although his clumsiness and total inability to keep a secret can be something of a liability, Jesus is a hard worker and goes on to the next page, and completely loyal to Stan, who doesn't have the heart to fire him. He often plays right hand to Stan's money-making scheme since he likes being where the action is. He's also an excellent resource for the kids since he is technically an adult and thus can drive them around places in his pickup truck. Aside from the kids, he's the only other one who tends to see the paranormal weirdness of the town, which makes him no difference since no one believes anything he says anyways. Except for Mabel, who thinks of him as a genius. So Seuss is more or less essentially the exact same. A couple of differences, of course, like him being a gossip-obsessed blabbermouth and watching Spanish soap operas. I don't think we've ever seen Seuss watching a soap opera as well at work, or at least, so that's kind of different. So he's more or less the exact same type of Seuss that we all know and love, which is kind of funny considering essentially they had Seuss from the get-go planned out. So yeah, I think between the two of them, Wendy is the most different compared to how she is in the final version of the show, while Seuss is more or less kind of the same. So that's kind of cool. Okay, moving on now to the antagonists, and oh god, there's a lot to read here. Robbie V. I love how Robbie essentially looks the exact same that he does in the actual final version of the show, except that instead of the heart on his hoodie, it's the muffin explosion thing. So even I did it wrong. I can see why Dipper called it a muffin. It is really much a muffin. Come on, Robbie, let's admit it. Okay. So Robbie is Wendy's self-centered juvenile boyfriend, tends to bust into Mystery Shack with a cocky swagger whenever Dipper manages to score some alone time with Wendy. A self-styled graffiti artist, Robbie tags the surrounding stores with his trademark image of a rebellious mushroom cloud, which most in the area think of as a muffin. He's also the lead singer of Robbie V and the Tombstones, so the band name is still the same. A band in which he emotionally whines about Facebook, whines lyrics about Facebook and loneliness over generic, overdriven guitar riffs. I forget again. This is 2010, so back then Facebook was still the social media site alongside MySpace or something. So makes sense there. As the son of a cemetery director, Robbie likes to pretend that he is deep and tortured, although in reality his home life is embarrassingly pampered. It's all yeah, that makes sense. He tries to be the edgy emo kid, even though he's probably a spoiled brat. Despite the cool guy image he tries to project, he's very insecure and sees Dipper with his big city smarts, skeptical eyes, and over familiarity with Wendy as a threat to his relationship. I love how even back in the pilot, Robbie was insecure about losing his girl to a 12-year-old. Oh man, Robbie is such a. I love how even in the pilot he's pathetic. Dipper is immensely skeptical of Robbie, suspecting him to either be a Satanist, vampire, missing link, or just a garden variety jerkwad, and always drawing hideous caricatures of Robbie in his journal, which even Grunkle Stan admits are pretty good. If there's anything good about Robbie's irritating angst, is that he is an equal opportunity heckler, and occasionally his rage can be funneled against Dipper's number one archenemy, Little Gideon Garrymore. So instead of gleeful Garrymore. Wait, I'm pretty sure Gary Moore. Wait, hold up. Gary Moore. I swear that name sounds familiar. Does anyone know that? But yeah, more or less, Robbie is essentially the same. Like Robbie is no different to how he is in the actual version of the show, apart from a couple of little things here and there. But apart from Facebook part. But yeah, Robbie is essentially no different to how he is in the actual final version of the show here. So I'm actually perfectly fine with that. Yeah, exactly. Dipper is a really good artist for a 12-year-old, so I can see why Robbie is so worked up about losing the Dipper, which is honestly kind of sad for him. Okay, so next I think is Gideon, and yep. Oh, this is. I love the designs of Gideon here. This is literally that. If you don't know about, there's this one image that Alex Hirsch based Gideon off of, which is like this child's like sidekick like holding a Bible in his hands. It looks exactly like Gideon. If you've seen that photo, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, essentially this is the exact same thing. So Little Gideon, the pudgy guitar strumming child sidekick whose visions have made him into the public television and radio. Little Gideon Garrymore is hands down the most famous and respected member of the Gravity Falls community. His tent of telepathy, he claims to be able to read minds, predict the future, and talk to the dead. In reality, his only powers are charisma and the lethal amount of hair gel. A brilliant businessman, Gideon's number one goal is to destroy the Mystery Shack, his tourism competition, and turn the whole town into Garrymore land. Not Gideon Land, Garrymore Land. Despite these lofty plans, Gideon fights dirty. He can often be found putting sugar in Stan's gas tank, painting over road signs, and generally petitioning the town to have the Mystery Shack bulldozer, pretending that his psychic powers have alerted him to its sinister effects on the town. No stranger to revenge, Dipper is constantly fighting back by debunking and disproving Gideon's demonstrations of his power, where he is a constant one-up smash-ups of the town. Whether fishing, bowling, or just getting a slice of pie at the diner, little Gideon is always around, just a hair away from getting into another petty scrap with the Pines family. And this image, he looks pretty familiar here. I'm not gonna say who he looks like, but I'm pretty sure if you keep your eyes up on politics, you'll know what I'm talking about. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But Gideon, again, he sounds exactly the same as he was in the actual show. Apart from a couple of differences, apart from his last name being Garrymore instead of Gleeful, he's pretty much the exact same character we all know. Personally, I do like the idea of Gideon and Dipper having a more harsher rivalry here. I think it would have been more interesting for Gideon to have been constantly at odds with Dipper in the show instead of Mabel's crush. I think Gideon being Mabel's crush it was alright for the show, but I think this here sounds a lot more cooler of him being sort of up at odds with Dipper in this rivalry. And we'll get to some scrapped episodes in a bit, and you'll see that Gideon was originally going to be a lot more of a rival to Dipper in the show. And then over here we have Manly Dan Corduroy. pretty straightforward here. He's an emotionally unstable lumberjack. Manly Dan doesn't cut down trees because it's his job. He cuts down trees because he hates trees. So he's basically the opposite of Mr. Beast. He assumes his daughter Wendy will join the family lumberjacking business once she grows out of her rebellious phase, but he'll go nuts if he ever found out that the truth that she's a tree hugger. So again, this is what I was saying about how Wendy is very different here to how she is in the actual show. Here, Wendy is apparently a hippie tree hugger, while in the actual show, obviously she's a lumberjack, just like Dan. Um, so that's actually pretty cool here. Like Manly Dan and Wendy were going to be polar opposites here. So Dan was going to be the hardline lumberjack character, while Wendy was going to be more of a hipster. Really glad we didn't get hippie Wendy. I am not a fan of that idea at all. The Wendy we have in the show, even if she never got enough development or episodes for herself, like I am so glad we did it. We had the Wendy that she is. So much better in that sense. Okay. Let me see. I think we still got some time, but I'm just gonna finish up the rest of this. But moving on. Oh, here we go. Sheriff. Okay, so instead of Blubs, we got Sheriff Blumps, Sheriff Blumps, and Deputy Derlin. So Derlin is the exact same. Okay, and then they're the lazy, sarcastic local law enforcement who deem every case unsolvable so they can go to lunch early. Whenever a mystery arises, they're around to mock Dipper for his insistence that he can figure it out, being like, "Oh, city boy, gonna solve this case with your fancy pants iPod, hoo-hee." So, yeah, essentially Blubs and Derlin are, again, also pretty much the same. They're still bumbling idiot cops. And, apart from Blubs having a different name here, he is more or less the same here as well. So, yeah, nothing new here to say. Pretty much the exact same. And, yeah, that's pretty much it for the characters. Now we're going to move on to... This is where things get cool. You guys are going to love this. I was reading this the other night. I made a thread on Twitter about it. But here are scrapped sample episodes. So most of these episodes, you'll notice some of these actually did end up being made into episodes of the show, but some of them didn't. And you're going to... It's pretty exciting with some of the stuff that I've read. Okay, so first of all, we've got the President's Cabinet. So while mowing the lawn, Dipper and... Oh my God, Alex, you did not. Oh, God. Look at that. Look at that. He spelled Mabel's name wrong. Okay, that's it. I'm blocking Alex search. I'm deleting the interview now. GG, everyone. This is over. I'm quit. Bye. Oh man, I can't believe he wrote Mabel's name like it's Mabel. Oh God. Anyways, okay, so Dipper and Mabel find a buried treasure from 1841 which contains the secret history of Quentin Tremblay, a man who was apparently the 8th president of the United States of America, but somehow never made it into the history books. It is an astonishing find, but when Dipper tries to get his find published in the local newspaper, he finds himself in a world of trouble with the U.S. government. And with Mabel's help and Jesus' driving permit, it's up to Dipper to solve the national treasure-esque puzzle and expose the truth about America's worst president. 2010, back when Tremblay was still the worst president. But yeah, essentially, as you can see here, this is a more or less essentially playing out as the plot to Irrational Treasure, but with a different twist. So instead of it being Tremblay as the original founder of Gravity Falls and Dipper trying to find it as a way to prove Pacifica wrong, here it's just Dipper randomly finds Tremblay information on the lawn of the Mystery Shack, and that lets him figure out that he's the president. So it's more or less this exact same in that sense, and different in other ways. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy that with the episode version we got, considering Dipper in the actual. In Irrational Treasure is one of my favorite episodes, so I'm glad we got it as the way it is, but this is pretty cool, like more conspiracy-esque and more, I guess, seeing what that sense was. Maybe we would have seen the Dispatcher character a lot more in this version. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, next here is Secret Dungeon. Dipper becomes fixated when he finds Secret Dungeon, a dusty arcade game from the 80s that was released for a month and then recalled for unknown reasons, but is still somehow running at a local ice cream shop. When Dipper's curiosity turns into an obsession, Mabel tries to track down the game's highest scorer, Jeb, the only one who she thinks can save her brother. So this is interesting. It's kind of, the way I described it, it kind of plays out like that iCarly episode, if you remember, where Spencer finds this game called Pack Rat, and he becomes addicted to the game, but then it results in him missing the deadline for a sculpture that he was commissioned to make, and then Carly and Sam, they go and trying to find the highest scoring player for that game, who then challenges Spencer to a playoff and eventually see who can score the highest score and stuff to break the addiction and stuff. So more or less, that's kind of what I'm seeing here. I guess maybe Alex Hirsch is a secret iCarly fan. And also Jeb. Apparently, the head developer of Minecraft was going to be in Gravity Falls. Yep, Jeb from Minecraft. I mean, it's probably not actually Jeb from Minecraft, but it would have been funny if it was Jeb. Interesting, more Mabel focused episodes. Yeah, there's a bit more Mabel focused here. Okay, here's something that's interesting. Stupid Thursday. Okay, so this is Dipper is frustrated with his sister as they can never communicate. So it's again another one of those Dipper and Mabel having a toxic sibling relationship type moment. His frustration gets even worse with the arrival of the Peaks twins, two pale children of the corn like super twins who finish each other's sentences and laugh in unison. When Dipper asks the twins what their secret is, they explain that all twins have psychic powers, and they vow to teach Dipper and Mabel to harness their twinly skills. But when Dipper and Mabel finally learn how to read each other's minds, they realize that getting inside the mind of your sibling can be a nightmare. And if you don't already realize, these twins are the exact same twins that we see in the Next Time on Reel. So, these two guys, like these two twins, I'm pretty certain that what we're seeing here are the Peaks twins. So these two creepy twins are like, as twins, have you ever felt a psychic connection? And so yeah, this is I'm pretty sure these are the Peaks twins. I kind of wish we did get them in the actual show. That would have been cool to see them, but I guess that's never gonna happen. But I really like this idea. I like the idea of Dipper and Mabel learning telekinesis and starting to mind read each other and all that stuff. So that would have been cool to see. Shame we didn't get it to happen, but, would have been cool. Okay, this one's pretty funny. Periodic Mabel. This is gonna ruffle the feathers of every single Mabel hater. Okay, when Mabel tries to help her brother prepare for a science fair, she accidentally creates a new chemical element called Mabelium, and soon Mabel is up for a Nobel Prize. Can Dipper handle being overshadowed by his goofy sister, and what exactly is Mabelium? So apparently Mabel creates a brand new element. So that's pretty funny. Mabel is now apparently a Nobel Prize winning scientist. That is honestly pretty funny. I would have loved to have seen this happen. Like, imagine the level of jealousy and absolute rage in this version of Pilot Dipper to find out that Mabel created an element before he did. That would have been so funny. Mabelium. I asked my sister what Mabelium would be like, and she said it would be like an element completely covered in sugar. So there's that. Probably also really radioactive. But yeah. Then here is only the clonely. This is apparently an early example of Boys Crazy. So essentially here it says, when Mabel goes backstage at a real boys concert, she discovers what Dipper always suspected was the truth, that all her favorite boy bands are literally clones of each other. It's up to Mabel to rescue the clones, but it's not easy hiding them all in her room. Meanwhile, Dipper tries to prove Wendy once and for all that Robbie is up to no good by playing one of his albums backwards to score for hidden messages. What Dipper discovers is even more terrible than he could have imagined. So, yeah, Science Fair in Summer. I mean, there was a Phineas and Ferb episode where that happened. Like, Beljeet had to make a portal to Mars. So, Science Fair in the summer is not too impossible to see happen. But back to this episode idea, it's essentially the plot to Boys Crazy. It's the only difference is that the episode's name is called Only the Clonely, and the boy band's name is not several times, but Real Boys, which is essentially hinting at the fact that they're clones. And then beyond that, of course, we have Dipper learning mind control, and yeah, essentially it's Robbie playing an album. It's literally Boys Crazy. Like, there's no getting around that fact. It's literally Boys Crazy. This is probably the only episode of this list that actually ended up being made in reality completely to what was planned. Okay, then this is funny. Instead of Little Dipper, we have Big Dipper. And essentially here it says is that Dipper is sick of being a kid. Wendy won't take him seriously. He can never see over people's head at the movie theater. and his uncle always is saying, "I'll tell you when you're older." But when a crazy gypsy woman with a magical puberty wand causes him to turn 22 overnight, he finds that being an adult is a serious growing pain in the neck. Dipper needs Mabel's help to help. Dipper needs Mabel's help. Alex, do spell check, man. Dipper needs Mabel's help has to track down and defeat the gypsy and get his childhood back. So, essentially, if you don't realize what this is essentially a reference to the 1988 movie Big, starring Tom Hanks. Basically, in that movie, this kid wishes to be grown up and stuff, and so he ends up becoming Tom Hanks, essentially, and then he has to experience the joys of being an adult, and then he has to figure out a way to get his childhood back. So, essentially, this episode is basically the plot to Big, but as a Gravity Falls parody. So it's kind of like the Labyrinth episode, which is going to be like a Labyrinth parody, but it didn't happen. So this is a Big parody that didn't happen. Honestly, I kind of like this idea. It's pretty interesting to see, and I think I probably would have preferred seeing this over Little Dipper, to be honest. But we'll never know if it could have been better or worse. But I quite like the idea. Okay, we have 2 more episode ideas here, and then I think I'm going to end the stream here. But, oh yeah, aged up Dipper. That would have been pretty horrifying to see. I can tell already, considering how Amphibia and Owl House fans have reacted to the older versions of those characters. It would have been a field day online, let's just put it that way. I'm not going to say anything more. But, okay. This is an episode that I'm pretty sure a lot of people know about already. Sweater Off Dead. Alex actually talked about it in the interview with us. He mentioned it a bit about how this was going to be a scrapped story in Lost Legends, but then it didn't happen, and then it was going to be a scrapped episode. But essentially, when Mabel buys an old sweater from a local flea market, she becomes possessed by the spirit of the 80-year-old woman who died wearing it. The newly possessed Mabel starts taking over the household, crawling on the ceilings, covering the furniture in plastic, playing bingo, and generally causing mayhem. Unfortunately, Grunkle Stan is powerless to stop her because her newly possessed voice reminds him of his ex-wife Marilyn, who he never had the guts to talk back to. It's up to Dipper to hire an exorcist specializing in demonic sweaters to free his sister and return things to normal. So already we know the sweater part, like flea market, creepy sweater, 80-year-old woman who died wearing it, possesses Mabel. It's a bottle episode set in the Mystery Shack. But what surprised me here was the fact that it mentions Marilyn. And in case you don't know the story, back in the in Roadside Attraction, we find out that Grunkle Stan has been divorced. And in the past, so he's been divorced, and we find out in the box set that he was divorced, from his ex-wife in Las Vegas, and his ex-wife's name was Marilyn, who apparently stole his car, and then yada yada, and all that stuff happens. And then, when the Owl House came out, we find out that Ida's name when she is exploring on Earth from the Demon Realm was actually known as Marilyn. So that essentially started a theory that Ida is Stan's ex-wife, and it's never been 100% confirmed but more or less the evidence points that Ida was Stan's ex-wife, though it's never going to be canonically 100% proven. But this is a rather interesting discovery, as some of you are already mentioning. This idea predates the Owl House by well over a decade. This was probably made in 2009, this idea, or 2010. So, Dana still was, I think, in college or something at the time. So this is a very, very old idea. So Marilyn was not, I always assumed that Alex put Marilyn in the box set commentary as a way to hint at this fact. But no, it turns out that Marilyn was always the original name of Stan's ex-wife, all the way back in 2010. So I guess they just retconned it into the show and made it into maybe it could be Ida. So I personally am not the biggest fan of that theory, to be honest. I'll be pretty front about that. I'm not a huge fan of the idea of Ida being a Stan's ex-wife, but at the same time I'm not against the idea if that is true. But this is kind of interesting, that the fact that Marilyn essentially is such an old idea that it happened long before the Owl House even happened. So that's pretty cool. Okay, and then finally here we have Teed Off. And this is the last thing we're going to look over, then I'm going to have to end the stream because I got some other stuff to work on. But essentially here it says, when Lil Gideon uses his psychic powers to declare himself the winner of a miniature golf competition before it even begins, Dipper decides to challenge him to prove once and for all what a phony he is. However, when a time portal at the center of the 13-hole windmill causes Giddy and Dipper to get caught in a time loop, they realize they'll have to work together to escape the black hole in one they've gotten stuck in. And this is also a pretty interesting episode idea. Essentially, what we have here is that this is essentially the Gulf War, but it's instead of Mabel versus Pacifica, it's Dipper versus Gideon. And instead of the little Putchians that we see in the episode, it's a Groundhog Day time loop type thing, which is pretty interesting, to be honest. I don't know. I actually like this episode idea. I really, really like this idea of like Dipper and Gideon going at it with each other. The only closest thing we ever got to seeing Dipper versus Gideon was in Gideon Rising when Dipper starts beating the shit out of him. So I would have really loved to see more of Gideon and Dipper going at it with each other. So yeah, I really like this idea. I would have been really interested in seeing it. But yeah, that's pretty much all that we have here in the set. So beyond that, we also have this thing here, which is the map of Gravity Falls. So we see like a mountain here called Mount Boarding, glaciers, the falls, Honest Man's Bluffs, an observatory, a cemetery, and a dormant volcano. And yeah, that's more or less all that we essentially have in this thing. I wish the map in full was posted here. It's not here on the actual second part. I wish the leaker had found that. It kind of sucks, to be honest, but yeah, that's essentially all that we have in this pilot pitch Bible. There was a second pitch Bible as well that was made, but that's more or less kind of the exact same thing. It just has a couple of small differences, and there's not really much else to look in that, so I'm not gonna really go over that. So I'm just gonna quickly post the screenshots of that over here. So here it's the exact same thing here of like Gravity Falls, more or less the same story here. Dipper, the original, is a bit of a different change, his awkward teen years and stuff. It just changes a lot of the stuff here regarding the characters, so it makes them more close to what we see here. And you can see here in the second pitch Bible, like the final series pitch Bible, it has the stuff that we were talking about that I wasn't a fan of removed. So like the stuff about the twins arguing with each other and such. So that's been removed. Let me see. This is the thing that I remember. Like, I think Ian Worrell shared this at a convention in 2022 in September. So, yeah, there's that. There's also this. The Grunkle stand here more or less is the same thing. Of course, now they removed the fact that he's in his 80s, so his age is now essentially unknown. The Mystery Shack is more or less the same, just with the new final design. The town is still there. The big mystery. So here, again, the big mystery has been changed. So instead of things being different, now it's Journal 3 is the big new thing that's been added in here. And also, of course, we see here, although every episode is meant to stand on its own as a funny, weird, satisfying episode, we do not hit the reset button every 21 minutes. This means that when characters get a scar or a building gets knocked down and a relationship changes, it stays changed for a duration of the series. It also means that there'll be several storyline arcs for Robbie and stuff. So essentially, that's all the same here as well. Then, of course, the character names have changed as well. I mean, the descriptions have changed to how they are in the actual show. More or less, all that's still the same. Pacifica here has now been added. Like, originally, we didn't have Pacifica here, but now Pacifica's been added here. So, instead of Bloodsman, so we now have Pacifica. Like, we have this new render of Pacifica here as well, which is I don't think we've ever seen this render of Pacifica before. So this is a brand new thing that we've found inside this pitch Bible. So that's new. It's more or less the exact same description of Pacifica as we know from the show here. Candy and Grenda have been added in here, and you see Grenda's a bit of a different design to what we see in the actual show. Here, Grenda is described as half Korean, half Chinese. Interestingly, that's pretty interesting. Old Man McGucket's been added in here. He's inventing deadly robots. He's a local wild card that always seems to pop out of the blue into something insane. Manly Dan's here. He hates trees. But Wendy has bigger plans. See, like here, in the pilot pitch Bible, it says here that Wendy is a tree hugger, but here it says that Wendy has bigger plans than cutting down trees in Gravity Falls for the rest of her life. So it doesn't say that she's a tree hugger. It gives her more of a different explanation and more of a open-minded idea of what she could be like. Then, of course, Blubs and Darlin are added here. BFFs for life. We all know that they're not just BFFs, guys. We all know that. But, of course, it's 2010, as we all know how Disney was back then, so they couldn't actually mention the truth about them, as we know. And then, of course, we also have Waddles added in here, Lazy Susan. Gompers apparently was, I guess, here. probably is going to have more of a use. There, of course, the episode descriptions here are exactly the same as we see in the show. So we got Tourist Trap, Legend of the Gobblewonker, Fight Fighters, Boys Crazy, The Land Before Swine, screenshot from The Legend of the Gobblewonker. And then here's something interesting. Gravity Falls is a character comedy about kids, about growing up, about family full of surprises, spooky, positive and heartfelt, contemporary, and in the Pacific Northwest. But it is not a Monster of the Week show or a cliche, mean-spirited, a mystery show, a pure action show, a Magic Twins show, sappy or melodramatic, or and most importantly, not driven by pop culture. Thank goodness for that. I don't know if you know this, but I'm so tired of seeing pop culture references over and over again in adult cartoons where they make every single episode an Air Bud reference. Like I'm literally sick of that stuff. I'm not gonna hate on Inside Job's last episode because it was not supposed to be the last episode, but I'm not a fan of the fact that it was an Air Bud reference. But yeah, that's a whole other story. But anyways, so then of course, yeah, someone else mentioned in the chat there was a map at the end of the second pitch Bible, but this is essentially the map that we all know already. It's been out there. So more or less, that's really all that was revealed here. Yeah, there's not really much else to say here. I found this to be a rather interesting discovery. More or less, this is a surprise. I did not expect that there would be a leak of this magnitude happen. This is stuff that we probably would have seen in an art book for the show, not, a pitch Bible. Like, the pitch Bible being leaked like this is a surprise. There was an Air Bud reference and some stuff. What I mean by pop culture references is, like, direct, forced pop culture reference in your face. Like, every single sentence of character, they use it. It's like putting references into an episode just because you can, because you're not worried about copyright like with Disney. So that's something I'm really happy that the show didn't do, and something I wish adult shows would do less of, because it's not bad to have pop culture references, but too many of them gets really annoying. But more or less, that's pretty much it. That was all I really wanted to talk about in this stream. Let me just check the chat. Let me see what people are saying. Okay, people are talking about our Wi-Fi cutting out. I imagine Alex and Dana were joking about the concept, and neither one of them was like, what if, and they just bullshitted it. Oh yeah, I can imagine that. Alex and Dana probably came up with this on the whim and just added it into the box set. And yeah, it makes sense that an idea of getting revoked from Easter eggs rather than being from the beginning. Dormant volcano. Yeah, dormant. I think there would have been an episode in the pilot version where we would have seen a volcano eruption in Gravity Falls. I mean, they're near Wyoming, and you all know what's underneath Wyoming, the fucking Yellowstone volcano. So there's that. Bill didn't exist yet. Yeah, Bill didn't exist yet. I think what Alex said was that Bill wasn't originally in early concepts of the show, but he was later put in later on. So he isn't in the pitch Bible. So that means Bill was never originally planned to be in the show. I think they said that Bill was going to be originally just another creature in the universe, so they obviously didn't mention creatures in the pitch Bible. But then later on, of course, they realized, we don't really have any other villains that we really are interested in, that interesting, so let's make Bill the big baddie of the show. And yeah. But beyond that, I'm just looking at the chat, see if there's anything else. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them, right now. After that, I'm going to be ending the stream after this, so yeah. I wonder if the time portal was a portal in the next time on Real. Maybe it's possible. Maybe the time portal was in the portal. Possible with the final sentences and stuff. So yeah, with the way final sentences worded, I feel like a twist episode would have been either that Mabelium is some odd, bad, maybe supernatural side effect. Yeah, Mabelium would have been something interesting to see. Several times better than Real Boys. Yeah, definitely facts there. But yeah, that's more or less it. T-Dot sounds like Golf Wars, but just different, and Gideon instead of Male Pacifica. Yeah, essentially, and also with a bit of a Groundhog Day element instead of the little Putchian characters that we see in that episode. So, yeah. But yeah, this is essentially a massive new dump of Gravity Falls info. Literally 2 weeks after I interviewed Alex Hirsch, which is pretty hilarious. I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh my God, you interviewed Alex Hirsch," and then suddenly someone drops the pitch Bibles, and the next time on. And I'm 100% certain that whoever leaked this on 4chan didn't do it because I said it. I said we were looking for this. This was most likely just a 4chaner who got all these episodes and just leaked them online. I don't think this was anything to do with what I said or anything that I was working on. This was purely a leak of chance, and it was a huge coincidence that this happened, and I'm really happy that happened. we can finally say that this Lost Mystery story is now over. And there is still more lost media for Gravity Falls out there. If you didn't know, there's a secret commentary that was recorded for the box set, which involved Seuss, which is entirely narrated by Seuss. That is still in the Shout Factory archives. I've been trying to... I spoke with the guy who directed the box set, and he said that, like, because Disney never approved it, it's in their vault. So, you know, if someone here is on 4chan's cartoon board and is interested in leaking out the Seuss commentary, I'm not condoning a leak, but, you know, I wouldn't be against a leak if it happened. So that would be something that would be interesting to say. That sounds like what a leaker would say. Someone def saw the end video and knew their time had come. I mean, it's possible. If it had just been the Gravity Falls pilot that leaked and the Bibles, I wouldn't have been. I would have believed that it was my interview that got that rolling. But because so much stuff leaked in the actual leak that happened, I think this was just a purely coincidental thing that happened, that they leaked Gravity Falls stuff alongside it. Because there was like multiple DuckTales leaks that happened. The entire Ghost in the Mullen McGee pilot got leaked. The Owl House pilot got leaked, as well as the pitch Bible for the Owl House. The Amphibia pilot got leaked in full. The Amphibia pitch Bible got leaked. The Big City Greens pitch Bibles and pilot got leaked. Milo Murphy's Lost pitch Bible and pilot got leaked. And I think there were some other shows that were never even approved and greenlit by Disney that got leaked. So it was a huge leak. Like people are calling this the Disney equivalent of the Giga leak, if you remember that thing from like Nintendo. So this is a huge thing that happened. So and already most of the 4chan posts that got made have been purged or taken down, but hopefully the Gravity Falls stuff doesn't get taken down by Disney. Hopefully they remember that Alex has already posted this stuff and he's not against this stuff being leaked. So fingers crossed there. But yeah, that's more or less it for this stream. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun exploring this pitch Bible. I really liked it. Like, there's some stuff in this pitch Bible that I would have loved to see in Gravity Falls, and mainly with the episodes that didn't get made, and stuff I'm glad didn't happen in the show, like the original idea of Dipper and Mabel being more stereotypical twins and Grunkle Sam being more of a creep sort of character. So I'm glad that didn't happen. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Think that's it for this all. Thanks for watching, guys, and bye. Have a good weekend. Later, everyone. Oh, by the way, just for after this, next videos are going to be related to the Alex Search interview, so I have a behind the scenes video coming up soon after that, which is going to be really exciting. There's also going to be a second video related to the interview where I'm going to be talking about some stuff that wasn't in the interview that related to Mystery Tour that it's going to be pretty exciting to talk about, and a secret question that Alex didn't let us put in the interview, but I'm still going to talk about because it's a really interesting idea, and I'm not going to mention what Alex said in it, but it's going to be pretty exciting what he revealed there. So keep an eye out for that. All right, bye guys. Question that Alex didn't let us put in the interview, but I'm